You've heard the stories, haven't you? The whispers in the dark, the way the cards just asterisk, no asterisk what you're going to do. This place? It's not just a casino. It's a relic, a ghost town of chance and greed, buried in the heart of the Mojave Desert. It was built in the 1950s, when the wheels of fortune spun faster than the wheels of the cars. Back then, it was a hub for gamblers, dreamers, and those who thought they could outsmart the house. You might think it's just a broken building, but some say the cards still play, that the game hasn't ended, that the house is still watching, and that some people still play. So, what are you going to do? Sit on the edge of your seat or take a seat at the table. This story is just beginning, and the game is about to start. You ever wonder how a simple game of cards could turn into a worldwide obsession? Well, Blackjack didn't start in Las Vegas or Atlantic City. It began in the 17th century in France, where it was called 21, French for 21. The game was a favorite among the French aristocracy, but it wasn't just about winning. It was about outsmarting the house. The rules were simple. Get closer to 21 than the dealer, but don't bust. It was a game of skill, patience, and a little bit of luck. One of the first to really crack the code was a mathematician named Ed Thorpe. He wasn't a gambler, but he loved puzzles. In the 1960s, he published a book called Beat the Dealer, and it changed everything. Thorpe didn't just write about counting cards, he proved it could work. He used a system called high-low to track the deck. It wasn't perfect, but it gave players an edge, and that's what made it dangerous. From that moment on, Blackjack wasn't just a game, it was a battle of wits. And the ones who mastered it became legends, or at least, they tried to stay under the radar. You've been counting cards for a while now, and it's starting to feel like the numbers are whispering secrets only you can hear. The deck seems to slow down, the dealer's eyes dart just a little too much, and the other players start to look at you like you're part of the game. You're winning more than you should, but the thrill is tinged with something else, like the air is heavy with unspoken rules you're breaking. The dealer starts to shuffle the deck more often, as if trying to erase the past. Then there's the dealer. She's always been friendly, but now she's watching you too closely. She even starts to talk to you, like she knows something you don't. And you're not sure if it's a warning or a compliment. One night, after a long shift, you walk outside and find your car missing. The dealer says she didn't take it, but she also says she's seen you around the casino more than you remember. You start to wonder if you're the one who's lost your way. You ever notice how the air feels heavier on a cold October night, like the world is holding its breath? That's exactly how it felt the night she vanished. Just a few blocks from where we stand now. She was just a young mother, out for a walk with her son. The kind of evening you'd expect to end with a warm cup of tea and a story about the ghost of the old mill. The next morning, her son was found alone, clutching a toy, with no sign of her. The police called it a tragic accident, but the town never forgot the way the wind carried her name through the trees. To this day, the street lamp still flickers on certain nights, and the wind whispers her name, like a lullaby left unfinished. So, I asked you, what do you think happened that night? Was she lost to the world, or did she find a way to stay with the ones she loved? I've met a few folks who swear they saw the ghost of a blackjack dealer in the early 1960s. A tall, thin man in a sharp black jacket, always counting cards with a look of quiet focus, like he was watching the world from the edge of time. One witness said he saw the dealer pause mid-count, look up, and wink at the player. Then, as if sensing he'd been caught, the man vanished like smoke in the air. They say if you sit at that table at midnight, you can hear him whispering numbers in a low, rhythmic tone, like a heartbeat from another world. And if you're lucky, you might catch a glimpse of his hand fingers long and slender, moving just as they did back in the 1960s, counting the cards one by one. We started by checking the usual suspects, hotel records, local police reports, and the ever-reliable town gossip. But the more we dug, the more the story seemed to shift like sand in the wind. One old clerk claimed to have seen a man in a black suit disappear into an empty elevator shaft. Another swore he heard a piano playing in a room that had been sealed shut for decades. The more we looked, the more we realized the hotel had been a place of disappearances, people who checked in and never checked out. Some claimed they were never seen again, others were found later, but never the same. We even found a file from the 1970s that mentioned a man who had been seen wandering the halls at night, muttering about a game he was playing with the house. No one believed him, of course, but the file was sealed and never explained. And then we found the room 13, the one they never talk about. The elevator never stops there, and the door is always locked. But the moment we saw it, we knew we had stepped into something far older than the hotel itself. You ever notice how some stories just stop? Like the last piece of a puzzle was never found. That's the thing about the one detail that's never been explained. It's not that the story is missing a piece, it's that the piece never existed. Like someone erased it from the record, or maybe it was never there to begin with. Some say the detail is still out there, waiting to be found. Others say it was never meant to be found. And some say it's not a detail at all, it's a truth that was never meant to be spoken. So what do you think? Was it a mistake? A cover-up, or something else entirely? The one detail that has never been explained. You've heard the stories about the old casino on the edge of town, where the dealers used to shuffle the cards like they were whispering secrets to the wind. Some say it wasn't just the card they were counting, it was the lives of those who lost too much. The locals still tell of the man who walked out with a fortune, only to be seen the next morning, sitting on the sidewalk, counting coins like he'd just been given a second chance. Now don't get me wrong, counting cards isn't cheating. It's just a game of strategy, played with a little more heart than most. But some say the house has a way of making sure the players never win the right way. There's a reason they call it a blackjack. Because when you're playing, you're not just betting on the cards, you're betting on your own luck. And sometimes, you end up betting on something far more dangerous. So next time you hear that old tale about the casino on the edge of town, remember, the cards may be silent, but the stories they tell are anything but. You've seen the cards, you've felt the tension, but there's still one question that lingers. What really happened to the man who walked away from the table with nothing but a pocket full of secrets? The cameras stopped rolling, the lights dimmed, and the story went cold. No one saw the last hand, no one heard the final whisper, and no one ever found the cards he was holding. The casino still stands, but the man is gone. You can feel it in the air, the way the cards whisper when no one's listening, the way the dealer's eyes flicker just a second too long. So, what do you think? Was it a mistake, a betrayal, or something far more sinister? The cards never lie, but they also never tell the whole story. And if you ever find that last card, remember some secrets are better left in the hands of the house. You ever notice how the most chilling stories are the ones that feel like they're whispering from the edges of the room? Like the wind is carrying a secret just out of reach. Sometimes, the most powerful moments aren't the screams or the shocks, but the silence that follows like a ghost who's already left the room. And yet, here we are, still listening, still waiting for the next story to slip through the cracks of time and find us. So, if you're ready for the next tale, let's not keep the shadows waiting. You've heard of haunted places, but St. Mary's Abbey? That's a name that carries more than just history. It's a place where time seems to freeze, and the past refuses to let go. Built in the 12th century, it was once a place of prayer and peace, but something shifted beneath the stones. Some say the monks were cursed by their own greed. Others whisper of a hidden grave that should never be disturbed. So, back in the 12th century, St. Mary's Abbey was a place of quiet devotion and sacred purpose. Monks walked its halls, chanting prayers and tending to the sick. But beneath the stone floor, something dark was already stirring. The abbey was founded by a noblewoman named Eleanor de Montfort, who had a vision of a saint appearing to her in a dream. She vowed to build a place of worship where the divine could dwell among the people. Quick word from our sponsor. If this sounds like something to enjoy, take a look at the Amazon Echo Dub 5th smart speaker. There's a link and a QR code on screen right now, and in the description below. Alright, back to it. So, you remember the day we first noticed something was off. The air in the abbey was thick, like it had been holding its breath for years. It wasn't just the chill, it was the way the silence felt like it had weight. The monks had warned us about the damp, but this was different. It was like the walls were exhaling something old and wet, and it made your skin crawl just to be near it. One of the guides tripped on a loose floorboard, and when he looked down, the wood was warped as if something had been crawling beneath it. He said it felt like the floor was trying to pull him under. We started to notice things that didn't belong, shadows that moved without light, whispers that didn't come from anyone, and the feeling that we were being watched, even when we were alone. It was like the abbey itself was trying to tell us something, but the words were just out of reach, hidden behind the weight of its history and the silence that had wrapped around it like a shroud. One cold November night, the bell tower rang out a solemn toll. The monks had vanished, and the abbey was silent, save for the wind whispering through the cracks in the stone. A young novice, Brother Elias, was found frozen in the cloister, his eyes wide, his hand clutching a torn page from the abbey's sacred manuscript. The manuscript was blank, save for one word scrawled in red ink: memento. It was the same word that had been found in the margins of every other abbey manuscript, long before Elias was ever born. The monks had been searching for the truth behind the word, but their quest led them deeper into the crypt, where the air grew thick with the scent of damp stone and something older, something waiting. When the last monk entered, the bell tower began to ring again, this time not with the solemnity of a funeral, but with a sound like 1,000 voices crying out in unison. And from the crypt, a single voice, deep and mournful, whispered, "Remember." I've spoken with a few locals who say they saw the abbey's crypt at night. One man swore he saw a flicker of light coming from beneath the stone floor, like a dying candle. Another woman claimed she heard whispers echoing through the walls, like someone was trying to call her name. She said it stopped the moment she turned around. There's even a retired nun who said she felt a cold breath on her neck the night she visited the crypt. She said it was the same way she felt when she first arrived at the abbey decades ago. One of the most chilling accounts came from a former caretaker. He said he saw a figure in the corner of the crypt, just before the walls began to bleed. He never said what the figure looked like, but he did say it vanished the moment he tried to take a picture, and he swore he never told anyone about it. We started with the basics, checking the locks, the door hinges, the stone floor. The abbey's caretaker said the place was sealed for centuries, but the lock was rusted open, like it had been waiting for someone to return it to silence. Inside, the air was thick and cold, like the last breath of a long-dead saint. The walls were lined with faded murals of saints and martyrs, their faces blurred by time, but their eyes seemed to follow us. We found the diary, tucked beneath a loose stone slab. It was written in a shaky hand, the ink faded but legible. It spoke of a secret chamber, a place where the abbey's darkest secrets were hidden. The box was heavy, and when we opened it, we found not relics, but a bundle of letters tied with red ribbon, letters written by a nun who had vanished decades ago, and who seemed to be warning of something far worse than death. There's something about this place that doesn't want to be found. It guards its secrets, and it's not done with us yet. We left with more questions than answers, and a feeling that we'd awakened something that had been sleeping for centuries. You know, the thing that has never been explained is the way the walls of that crypt still smell like burnt sugar. It's not just the scent of old stone, it's something else entirely sweet, faint, and oddly familiar. Every time a new researcher or historian steps into that place, they say they can taste it like a sugar-coated memory from a life that never was. No one knows where it came from or why it lingers. It's the one thing that's always been there, always been noticed, and always been ignored. Like the crypt itself is whispering secrets in a language we can't understand, and the only thing we can taste is its silence. So now, the question is, what did they burn to make that smell? And why does it still linger, like the last note of a song that never ended? You know, some folks say the abbey is not just haunted, it's cursed. They tell me the monks who built it tried to bury a secret, and now the earth won't let it rest. One local legend claims the crypt was built over an ancient burial ground. The monks, desperate to hide their sins, sealed the dead beneath the stone floor. But the dead don't stay buried. There are those who believe the whispers in the crypt are the voices of the buried moaning, pleading, or warning. But others say it's just the wind, or the echoes of something far older than the abbey. And then there are the ones who say the crypt isn't cursed at all, it's just a tomb waiting for the right hand to open it. But I've heard the stories, and I've seen the look in their eyes when they talk about it. You know, even now, the town still talks about the one that never left. The one who was found with her hand in the grave, but her body was never recovered. They say she's still waiting for someone to find her. Some say she was a nun, others say she was a bride, but no one can say for sure. All they know is that she was buried here, and then she vanished. The parish priest, who's been here for 50 years, swears he's never seen her. But he's seen the light, a soft, golden glow that appears every full moon, just outside the church door. Some say it's the ghost of the one who never left. Others say it's just the moonlight playing tricks, but if you listen closely, you might hear her voice whispering in the wind. And so, the mystery lingers, like the scent of old incense on a cold night. A story that won't die, just waits like the one who never left. You know, sometimes the most haunted places aren't the ones you expect. They're the quiet ones, the ones that don't scream for attention, but whisper secrets in the dark. Mary's Abbey wasn't a place of chaos or bloodshed, it was a place of prayer, of love, of people who believed in something greater than themselves. So the next time you're walking through an old graveyard or passing by a forgotten church, maybe you'll pause. Maybe you listen, because sometimes the silence is the loudest. But don't worry, dear listener, there's always another story waiting. One that's just as real, just as strange, and just as full of ghosts. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a feeling the next tale is about to knock on the door. You ever heard the whisper of the wind, and it sounds like someone's calling your name? That's what folks say happens on Prairie Hill in the early morning light when the mist clings to the stone like a ghost's hand. This place was once a monastery, centuries ago, but the monks left in haste. Some say they were chased by the devil, others say they were fleeing a curse. Either way, the hill's name wasn't given by accident. The hill's real spooky start was in the 1920s when a local woman claimed she heard voices in the stones, crying out for help. She said the screams echoed through the hills louder than any wind or storm. No one believed her at first, but the screams kept coming on the nights of the full moon, when the sky is black and the trees are still. Even the town sheriff started hearing them, though he never admitted it. Now, when you walk the path up the hill, you can still feel it like the wind is trying to tell you something. And if you listen closely, you might just hear it too. You know, it all started with a man named Elias Whitmore, a wealthy landowner with a taste for the dramatic. He built Prairie Hill as a grand estate, but there's more to him than meets the eye. Elias wasn't just building a house, he was building a legacy, and he had a peculiar way of ensuring it. He hired a group of local laborers, but they weren't just workers, they were outcasts, convicts, and those who had been cast out of society. They built the estate, but Elias made them swear an oath never to speak of what happened in the woods behind the house. And if they did, they'd be cast out for good. But the forest had its own secrets, and the workers knew it all too well. The work was grueling, and tensions ran high. One night, a man disappeared. The others claimed it was a trick, but the whispers grew louder. Some said the woods had taken him, others said it was Elias himself, and some said the walls of Prairie Hill had begun to scream. Elias never admitted to the disappearance, and the workers were never allowed to leave. They were kept under watch, their lives a living tomb. And so, the legend of Prairie Hill was born not just of a house, but of a man who built his own prison. Before you go, if you enjoyed this, please give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And tell us in the comments what you'd like us to make next. We read every single one. Thank you so much for watching. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end.